I never believed in curses. I never believed that objects could carry anything more than dust and memory. But if you're reading this, I need you to understand something. Some old things should never be touched. I learned that the hard way. After my divorce, life narrowed down to two things: my son, Misha, and survival. We moved into a cramped Khrushchevka apartment block on the outskirts of the city. The walls were thin, the plumbing old, and the smell of damp concrete never really left. My ex-wife had lost herself to alcohol long before. The court officially stripped her of parental rights. I don't say this with anger anymore, just exhaustion. Misha was 8, quiet, observant, too mature for his age. When I found a cheaper place to rent, I thought it was luck finally turning toward us. The apartment belonged to a kind, elderly woman who was moving to live with her daughter. She smiled often, spoke softly, and pressed the basement keys into my palm as if they were something sacred. "There are preserves down there," she said. "Jam, pickles. Help yourselves. And old things." The apartment itself felt frozen in time. Patterned wallpaper, a creaking parquet floor, heavy wooden furniture polished by decades of hands. No modern appliances, except a rusty gas stove and an aging washing machine that groaned like it hated its existence. But it was clean, and warm, and ours. The basement, however, was different. I only glanced at it the first day, narrow concrete stairs descending into dimness, the air thick with dust and something metallic. Shelves lined the walls, cluttered with jars of jam, tools, broken chairs, and boxes sealed long ago. I told myself it was harmless, just old junk. That night, as rain hammered against the windows and wind rattled the balcony door, I lay awake longer than usual. Misha slept beside the wall, curled under his blanket. Somewhere below us, deep in the building, something made a dull scraping sound. I blamed the pipes. I always blamed the pipes. The next morning, life felt normal again. That's how it works. Horror never announces itself. It blends into routine. I woke early, made buckwheat porridge on the old gas stove, and watched steam fog the tiny kitchen window. Misha shuffled in, hair messy, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, can we try the jam from the basement today?" he asked. I smiled. "Sure. After breakfast." The idea felt comforting. Homemade jam from a sweet grandmother cellar. It sounded like the beginning of a cozy memory. The basement door resisted when I unlocked it, as if the air pressure inside didn't want to let go. A dry smell rolled out: dust, rust, old paper. I flicked the switch, but the bulb overhead only flickered weakly. Rows of jars reflected the dim light. Strawberries, cherries, apricots, their colors darkened with time. Misha stayed close to me. I found a jar labeled 1998. The lid creaked as I twisted it open. Surprisingly, it smelled fine. Sweet. Then Misha wandered toward the back corner. "Dad, look." He was crouched near a wooden crate filled with old toys. Most were broken, missing limbs, faded paint. But in the middle sat a stuffed bear. It was large. Once brown, now stained gray. Its fur clumped together as if it had been wet many times. One button eye was loose. The other wasn't a button. It looked almost real. Glass, maybe, but deep, reflective, too detailed. "Can I keep him?" Misha asked. I hesitated. There was something about the bear's face, the stitching of its mouth pulled tight, in what might have been a smile, or a grimace. "It's dirty," I said. "We'll wash it first." When I picked it up, it felt heavier than it should have. Not stuffed with cotton. Something denser. Back upstairs, I tossed the bear into the washing machine. The old appliance rattled violently when it started. A loud crack echoed from inside. Then the water draining out turned black. Thick. Ink-like. The machine shuddered and died. I opened the door slowly. The bear sat inside, untouched. Dry. I didn't tell Misha about the black water. I told him the machine was broken and that I'd wash the bear by hand later. He named it immediately. "His name is Kosalopi," he said with a grin. The name felt wrong on his tongue. Too deliberate. That night, I placed the bear on a chair in the corner of his room. I told myself I was being irrational. It was just an old toy, found in a basement. Nothing more. Rain lashed the windows again. The building creaked as if settling into itself. I must have fallen asleep around midnight. I woke to silence. Not ordinary silence, but the kind that feels thick, as if the air itself is holding its breath. Then I sensed it. I wasn't alone in the room. I turned my head slowly toward Misha's bed. The bear was no longer on the chair. It was lying beside him. Its glass eye was pointed directly at me. I froze. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain it would wake Misha. I sat up, blinking, trying to rationalize it. Maybe Misha had taken it. Maybe I had imagined where I left it. But Misha was lying still. Too still. Misha. I whispered. No response. I stood and stepped closer. The bear's head tilted slightly. Not much. Just enough. Misha, I said louder, shaking his shoulder. His skin felt cold. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. There were no pupils. Just white. His body began to tremble violently. His fingers tightened around the bear's torso. And then he smiled. Not like a child. I grabbed the bear with both hands and tore it from his grip. The moment I touched it, a sharp pain shot through my palms. I didn't think. I ran to the hallway and threw it down the garbage chute. The metallic clang echoed downward for what felt like forever. When I returned, Misha was sitting upright, breathing normally. His eyes were brown again. "Dad," he said quietly, "where's Kosalapi?" I told Misha the bear was dirty and that I threw it away. He stared at me without blinking. "You shouldn't have done that," he said. His voice sounded older, not deeper, just heavier. Like two voices speaking at once, barely out of sync. "It was just a toy," I replied, trying to keep calm. "You can choose a new one." His hands began to shake. Not slightly, violently. Fingers twitching as if invisible strings were pulling them. "You threw him away," he repeated, slower this time. The apartment felt smaller. The air thicker. "Misha, you're scaring me." He tilted his head, the exact same angle the bear had. "He's cold down there." A sudden pounding noise echoed from somewhere deep inside the building. Metal clanging against metal. The garbage chute. I stepped back instinctively. "Misha, listen to me. It's gone." His expression twisted. Not anger, something worse. Confusion turning into rage. "He's not gone." The chandelier above us began to tremble. The glass pieces clinked softly at first, then violently. The cabinet doors swung open by themselves. Dishes rattled. "Misha!" I shouted. His feet lifted slightly off the floor. Not high. Just enough that I saw the shadow beneath them separate. He let out a sound that didn't belong to a human throat, high-pitched, piercing, layered with something guttural underneath. The walls vibrated. I grabbed the small icon of St. Nicholas that hung near the entrance, the only religious thing left from my mother, and held it toward him. For a second, he recoiled. Then he launched forward. He didn't run. He moved across the wall. His hands and feet pressed flat against the wallpaper as if gravity had changed its mind. He crawled toward me, fast, head jerking in unnatural motions. I swung instinctively. My fist connected with his cheek. He fell. The shaking stopped instantly. Silence returned. Misha lay unconscious on the floor. My hands trembled worse than his had. I tied his wrists and ankles to the bed with belts. I didn't know what else to do. Then I ran to the nearest church. The church doors were half closed when I arrived, drenched in sweat and rain. Inside, candles flickered against golden icons. The priest, Father Andre, looked up as I stumbled in. "My son," I gasped. "Something is inside him." He didn't laugh. That terrified me more than if he had. He listened quietly as I described everything. The bear, the eyes, the wall, the voice. "You brought something from the basement," he said slowly. "A toy." "No," he corrected. "Not a toy." He grabbed a small bag, a cross, and holy water. We hurried back. The apartment door was still locked. Inside, it was too quiet. Misha was no longer on the bed. The belts lay neatly folded. The priest whispered a prayer under his breath. A scraping sound came from the hallway ceiling. We both looked up. Misha clung to the corner where wall met ceiling, fingers dug into plaster. His eyes were yellow now. Not glowing. Just wrong. Child, Father Andrei called firmly. In the name of... Misha screamed. He dropped from the ceiling, landing silently. Then he ran. Not toward us. Toward the garbage chute. Before I could reach him, he climbed the metal door like an animal and pulled it open. No. I shouted. He looked back at me. For a split second, I saw my son again. Fear. Confusion. Then something else moved behind his eyes. And he jumped. The sound of his body hitting metal echoed down. And down. And down. I collapsed to my knees. Father Andrei stood frozen. It's attached, he whispered. To the object. We need an exorcist. But it was too late. A wet thud came from the chute opening below. Something rolled out. I approached slowly. It was a head. My son's face. Eyes open. Mouth slightly parted. I don't remember screaming. I remember laughing. Because none of it made sense. I don't remember calling the police. I remember staring at the garbage chute. I remember Father Andrei backing away, whispering prayers with shaking lips. Then I saw it. In the middle of the hallway. The bear. Kosalapi. It sat upright. Clean. Dry. There was blood on its snout. Fresh. I lunged at it with a scream I didn't recognize as my own. I tore at its fur, ripping seams open with my bare hands. Inside wasn't cotton. Inside was something dark and fibrous. It smelled metallic. I dragged it into the kitchen and turned on the gas stove. I held the bear over the flame. The fire bent away from it. Like wind pushed it aside. The fur did not burn. Instead, the glass eye rolled toward me. Blinking. That's when the police burst in. They saw me holding a knife. Saw blood on the floor. Saw my son's head near the chute. They didn't see the bear move. They didn't see it turn its head as they dragged me away. But I did. As they forced me into the patrol car, I looked up at our apartment window. Behind the curtain, a small shape stood. Watching. And its single glass eye reflected the streetlight. They found the rest of my son's body in the garbage. Collection chamber 2 floors below. The official report said blunt force trauma. Severe mutilation. Evidence of mental instability. They never mentioned the bear. I tried to tell them. I told the detectives about the basement. About the black water in the washing machine. About Misha crawling on the walls. I told them about Father Andrei. The priest testified. But he looked different in court. Pale. Avoiding my eyes. He confirmed that I had come to the church in distress. That I claimed my son was possessed. But, when asked directly whether he witnessed anything supernatural, he hesitated. Then he said no. The courtroom went silent. The prosecution painted me as a grieving father who had snapped. A man under stress from divorce. Financial hardship. Isolation. They said I projected guilt onto a toy. They showed photos of the apartment. There was no bear in any of them. I screamed that they had removed it. That it was still there. The judge ordered me restrained. During the final hearing, as the verdict was read, I looked toward the back of the courtroom. And I saw it. On an empty bench. Kosalapi. Sitting upright. No one else reacted. Its glass eye locked onto mine. The judge declared me legally insane. I was to be transferred to a psychiatric institution for indefinite treatment. As they escorted me out, I kept my gaze fixed on the bench. The bear was gone. But I felt something follow me. The psychiatric hospital smelled like disinfectant and hopelessness. White walls. Narrow beds. Bars on the windows. They medicated me heavily at first. Said I was experiencing acute psychosis with violent delusions. For weeks, I barely dreamed. But when the medication dosage was reduced, the dreams began. In every dream, I was back in the basement, standing in front of the wooden crate. Only this time, it wasn't filled with toys. It was filled with photographs. Dozens of them. Children. Different decades. Different clothes. All holding the same bear. Kosalapi. Behind each child stood an adult, father or mother, eyes tired, unaware. Every photograph was labeled with a date. The last one was ours. I woke one night to a soft sound near my bed. A scraping noise. Metal against tile. I forced myself to look down. At the foot of my bed, in the dim hallway light filtering through the door window, something small moved. A rounded shape, dragging itself slowly closer. I shut my eyes. When I opened them again, nothing was there. In the morning, one of the orderlies asked why my palms were bleeding. I hadn't noticed. They looked like I had been clawing at rough fabric. Months passed. No one from the building ever contacted me. I later learned the elderly landlady had died shortly after we moved in. Heart failure. Convenient. Father Andre never visited. But one patient did. An older man who had been institutionalized for decades. He rarely spoke, mostly muttered to himself. One evening, he stopped in front of me and whispered, "You found it in the cellar too." My blood turned cold. "What?" I asked. "The bear," he said. "They always leave it in the cellar." My throat tightened. He smiled with broken teeth. "It chooses the child. Feeds through love. Through attachment." "How do you know?" I asked. He leaned closer. "Because I threw it away too." He was taken back to his room after that. I never saw him again. That night, I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I heard it clearly. A soft thump on the floor beside my bed. I turned my head slowly. Kosalapi was sitting there, cleaner than ever. Its fur smooth. Its glass eye reflecting my face. Its stitched mouth wider than before. "You didn't protect him," a voice whispered. It didn't come from the bear's mouth. It came from inside my head. I tried to scream, but my voice didn't work. The bear lifted one paw. Inside the torn seam on its belly, something moved. Breathing. They say I attacked an orderly that night. They say I was found screaming, clawing at empty air. They say there was nothing in my room. They increased the medication. But before they sedated me completely, I saw something I will never forget. As they strapped me to the bed, I looked toward the hallway. At the very end, near the exit sign, stood a small figure. A child, back turned to me, holding something by the paw. It was Misha. I know it was him. He turned his head slightly, just enough for me to see one eye. Yellow. Not angry. Just distant. Beside him, standing upright, was the bear. Its glass eye fixed on me. Watching. Waiting. The doors closed. The lights dimmed. And the last thing I saw before darkness swallowed everything was Kosalapi tilting its head. Just a little. The same way it did that first night.